Hello and welcome to the Cardiac Cats YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jacob Shorba, and today we are doing an on-the-spot video on Calvin Ridley being reinstated to the Jacksonville Jaguars for the 2023 NFL season. Now let's go! This is an awesome move, something we obviously expected, but hey, it's official now. We know Calvin Ridley's going to be with this team, and we are excited. This is one of those pieces that this team needed to add on. They needed to get that number one receiver to pair with Trevor Lawrence, and I think this move does exactly that for the team. So we'll see on here. We're just going to check out over the cap, and it actually doesn't show on this version of it because I think they just updated this. So if you see I go here, Calvin Ridley officially reinstated. He's one of our cap numbers now, so this is going to impact the amount of money the Jacksonville Jaguars have available right now. Officially updated, it's about $5 million in cap space. Now, this is fine. This is a move we understood was going to happen. And ultimately, you're paying a number one receiver $11 million to play for you for this year. And then we have all the conditional stuff with the deal, so you have this now turning into a 5th round pick that's been given to the Atlanta Falcons for this season, so no longer a 6th rounder. That's because he's reinstated. In the following season, as of now, it is a 4th rounder. Now, if he performs so well, we don't know the exact parameters of it, but if he performs to a certain level, it will become a 3rd rounder. And if the Jaguars decide to re-sign him after this year to a long-term deal, it becomes a 2nd rounder. So a lot of contingencies in this deal. It's a very good deal for the Jaguars because they're really protected if everything just doesn't work out the way they expect. And at the same time, at most, you're giving up a 2nd round pick for a guy you feel like is one of the best receivers in the league. So obviously, a really good trade when you break that all down. So, Calvin Ridley, officially a player on the Jacksonville Jaguars, as I get a phone call live in the middle of this. Because this news just broke out, gosh, like a couple minutes ago, I think. But, hey, we got to record. Calvin Ridley is your number one receiver right off the bat. Pair him with Christian Kirk, another guy you feel like can be a number one. But let's look at why he's a number one receiver. I'm going to take you back to the 2020 season with the Atlanta Falcons. Had a monster year. You look at these games. Over the course of this season, he had 9 games over 100 yards for his team, 9 touchdowns, and overall 1,374 yards for the Atlanta Falcons. He was a monster for his team. And you even see in here, there was one week where he was inactive. Imagine what it would have been if he played. Could have been a 1,500-yard season for all we know. So, Calvin Ridley, player with a ton of potential. Now, why was he so cheap for the Jaguars? Well, here's the reason. In 2021, he played for the first part of the year and decided to step away from mental health issues. Nothing like big red flag with him. Wasn't anything revealed about some problem he had off the field. He was just a player who needed to step away for mental health. So any sort of concern about that is really 100% speculation. As a person, there's not huge concerns with him at all. And so he stepped away from mental health, didn't play the rest of the season, and I believe either towards the end of the season or early in the off season, it was revealed that Calvin Ridley had gambled on a game. Actually, I believe it was a whole slew of games for that week. He even rooted for the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Jaguars in one of those, I think. So kind of funny how that works. I'm sure he doesn't agree with that anymore. But bet on a bunch of games, and the NFL suspended him. And the crazy thing about this is how long they suspended him. Suspended longer than Deshaun Watson, who had 24 sexual assault allegations against him. So, kind of crazy, right? Think there might be a problem there. I would guess, correct? So, you've got that with Calvin Ridley. But here's something you gotta know about this suspension and why this really is not as big of a deal as people might want to make it out to. He was not in contact with the team. He was on his own. He was not communicating with the team. He was not impacting the game. He was completely separated from the Atlanta Falcons and all of the NFL when he made that bet. So I understand why he was suspended. I understand by the rules, all of that. It makes sense. But at the same time, I feel like the punishment was still crazy for the crime. It's maybe what it was supposed to be by the books. But this was not some gross act by him. You know, even as a person who doesn't think gambling is a good thing, like, he's not just this awful person for doing this. Is really something where it's like, hey, you just should not be gambling because you're an NFL player, you know, even though you're not connected to the team right now. And he ended up, you know, getting suspended for that. So his value at this point was very low. He was a player who's now been separated from the game for about a year and a half. It's been a while since he's on the field, but hey, when he was on the field, this was a guy that people felt like was the best route runner in the league. One of the best young receivers. He's not going to have as many miles on him, even though he's 28, 29 years old, somewhere around there. Despite that, this guy's got a lot of time left in the NFL. And the value in this trade, what you had to give up for him, was not a whole lot. And so the Jaguars managed to trade for a player that should be a number one receiver, whether early in the season, late in the season, or his second year with the team, assuming he gets re-signed. They get a number one receiver. They don't even give up a first round pick. At most, it's a second rounder, and it's only a second rounder if the Jaguars get a complete win out of this trade. There is essentially no scenario where the Jaguars lose this trade, other than if he just, like, tears his ACL, doesn't play a single game. Hope I'm not jinxing him, right? But that's, like, the only way that makes any sense at all for it not to work out. It's a fantastic trade. Arguably the best trade of this last season. Obviously, I'm biased as a Jaguars fan, but a huge deal, a great move. It was creative, and now you hope it pays off. So Calvin Ridley, officially reinstated to the NFL, officially a Jacksonville Jaguar, and officially going to be playing with Trevor Lawrence in the 2023 NFL season. How about that? So with that said, thank you all for watching. I appreciate your time. I hope to have more videos out this week. Been sick the last couple of days, but hey, I'm feeling better after getting this news, right? So we'll definitely have more content out, have our podcast this week, next week as well after free agency gets kicked off. Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day, and go Jags.